Hello, friends and beautiful people. This is Catherine Massell. I am recording this message as of the date of April 28th, 2020. And this has to do with some major timeline splits that are happening on the planet at the moment. And three major timelines that I have been asking to witness by my galactic team and my guides and talk about. This is basically a blending of a channeled message and my own interpretation of kind of scribing these frequency codes and downloading blockchains of information about these timelines and these splits. This is in response to a lot of, the righteous anger I've been seeing, a lot of the confusion for a lot of folks on the planet who are having a very intense emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical awakening. Has to do with some major consciousness splits, some major frequency splits that are happening. It has to do a great deal with our levels of consent to what is going on, what has been going on. And this has been a prompting on the part of my galactic team and spiritual guides to bring this information forward. So as in anything, when you are a spiritually aware and discerning adult, aware of your ability to critical think and reason through information that comes from a balanced place of heart, mind, intelligence, you'll take from this what you will and leave the rest. So every person on the planet has a limit regarding what they are comfortable with. In terms of their 3D time-space matrix reality, in terms of like their openness and the depth of feeling that they allow themselves to experience. This has to do with past conditioning. Has to do with various past experiences that have shaped your attitude, your comfort level regarding feelings. You will allow yourself or limit yourself to a certain degree based on what feels comfortable for you to feel regarding your emotions and your ability to acknowledge them and express them. And so what is occurring on this planet right now is a rapid increase of experiences in a shorter and shorter duration of time. There are more and more reactions, more and more responses, more and more emotional and feeling situations than ever before, and these are opportunities for accelerated growth. They are not limitations, they are opportunities for accelerated growth. But if an individual is not comfortable with the feelings that they have within themselves and the depth of the feelings that can arise within themselves, then what's going to happen is an attempt to block the process, slow it down, decelerate it. This is going to always cause cognitive dissonance or tension, mental anxiety that you will feel ultimately in your body and only increase the amount of ascension symptoms that you will feel, the tensions that are made physically manifest in the body in any way, shape, or form that we experience. Inflammation in the body, tension, migraines, flare-ups of arthritis, any chronic pain becomes more intensified, etc. With the depths of these feelings that can arise, again, we attempt to block the process or slow it down. This creates cognitive dissonance. This creates mental anxiety. This will show up physically as ascension symptoms in the body in our density, in our 3D form. These powers of emotions that you're feeling and experiencing moment to moment, it really is the food, though. It is the fuel which is moving you into higher states of consciousness if you are not doing the work of blocking that within you and creating resistance within you. Because Earth is moving into a higher consciousness octave, time is speeding up, or we're going to have the psychological experience of time speeding up. So more events and experiences are occurring in shorter durations of time, creating more feelings and creating more emotional reactions. And depending on our response to that, more dissonance, more blocks, more resistance, more upheaval, more discomfort. So understanding clearly that these are opportunities, everything that you're feeling is an opportunity for accelerated growth if you allow that. And if you allow the natural evolution of you accepting them, acknowledging them, and moving through them. But if you reject these experiences, if you reject your own emotional feeling reactions, your own emotional feeling responses, and you polarize them into blame for yourself, blame of someone else outside of you causing these disturbances, if you polarize them into resentment, you polarize them into victimhood, you polarize them into outrage, then you've completely missed the point of your evolution in consciousness that is available to you right now as an opportunity. So blaming the situation or someone else for your discomfort is completely erroneous. It's not the way to do this. Your feelings and your emotions are reactions to situations based on your interpretation of events that are happening. Your interpretations. They are mirrors that allow you energetically to respond to and become aware of your own calibration to an event or an experience. You're either in accord with it or discord with it, and you are only and ever the one that is creating that. Whatever the event is, whatever the timeline you're being presented with, whatever the ultimate truth is for you, because that's subjective, it will elude you until you understand that what you are experiencing in this shift in consciousness is all about you and your response. Reality is only and ever your version of it. Sure, we have a shared collective reality, absolutely, but that's simply an agreement of terms. Reality is just a projection of one's current level of consciousness, and you are either staying at that level because you are providing your own blocks for evolving into a higher level of consciousness. So you are staying at that level, or you are exiting the chrysalis, because that's the stage we are in right now. And that's why we have such a plethora of bifurcating timelines branching off into a lot of different directions. And the three major ones that I'm going to talk about, that I mentioned at the outset, I'm going to talk about in just a minute here. Whatever the event is, whatever the ultimate truth is, it will elude you until you understand that what you are experiencing as reality in all events is your own projection, interpretation, and creation of it based on your current level of consciousness. So, because we have an accelerating timeline, a collective timeline here on planet Earth, because we have these frequency shifts, we have a major harmonic or octave shift, which is part of the natural evolution process of ascension. That is us moving into a higher consciousness octave of reality. To the degree that you've been consenting to fear, you will not exit the chrysalis, meaning you will not be that beautiful butterfly that is able to fly free in this new level of consciousness. To the degree that you are consenting to love, you will be able to exit the chrysalis. You will move past this level of consciousness. You will evolve past this consciousness split, this frequency split. Everything that is happening for you, thoughts, your feelings, etc., is occurring because you are consenting to it. You are choosing a frequency. But is it the one you want? Or is it that what you're consenting to is creating cognitive dissonance, meaning this mental anxiety because you feel one thing, but you are choosing to do something else? And we will do this for a number of reasons, usually because we want to be part of something or be under the guise that we are part of something. What you are consenting to, is it what you want? And what is it that you are consenting to in terms of determining your individual and collective timeline that is the highest and best? Are you in a place of a fear of awakening, a fear of opening up, based on conditioning, based on those limits that I talked about of what you will allow yourself to experience, allow yourself to express, allow yourself to move through? Many of us are in this fear of awakening, while at the same time we're like, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. But is this a cognitive dissonance within you where you are really having this fear of opening up when on the outside you are saying something else? This is creating this kind of cognitive dissonance for many, many people on the planet because our 3D personality is losing its coherence, meaning it is shifting. So the whole entire field of the magnetic field of Earth, at its core and radiating outward, this whole magnetic field of Earth is shifting. It's causing blips, and because we are so intrinsically, intimately tied with the magnetic core frequency of Mother Earth through our DNA, it is causing blips in our linear processing of logical thought. So that brings us into the first major timeline split that I'm talking about. We have been living on this earth, and again, you're going to take from this what you will and leave the rest. We have been living on this linear timeline on planet Earth of a death culture. It is an anti-life agenda on this planet that has been very active, very prevalent for a very long time. Disease, violence, pestilence, harming, killing animals, people, children. This has existed where there was this very, very blurry line between morality, empathy, seeing sentient life as something that is sacred and should be honored. This kind of nihilism, this exploitation, victimization to the extreme that has been part of the death culture here on this planet, and in a lot of ways causing planet Earth to be a prison planet for a very long time, thousands of years. We are waking up to this as a species. This awakening is uncomfortable. This awakening is bringing realizations to us that is creating the cognitive dissonance of we have been complicit or complacent with this to a certain degree. We don't want to admit it, but we have been. And we've been complicit in this and allowed this behavior on this planet to continue. And we have reached a breaking point, many of us here on the planet who are aware of this now, we are reaching a breaking point where we are saying no more. But here's where this first major timeline split is very active. Some will stay in this darkness. Some will not wake up to this. Some either are unwilling to see it, don't want to see it, refuse to see it, not willing to believe it exists, etc. Talking about the dark death culture, there's Luciferian timelines, satanic timelines, things that are negative alien agendas that have formed mind controls, mind slides, mind locks on this planet for a long time, where there have been mind control tactics that have kept humanity in the victim-perpetrator timeline, and many, many offshoot timelines of that for thousands of years. Some will stay in this darkness. Some will not be willing to see it. It doesn't matter how much you come at them with quote-unquote truth. They don't want to see it. They don't want to believe it exists. They can't possibly wrap their minds around there being this level of cruelty, or this level of inhumanity, or this level of darkness. And in their way, they are keeping the prison planet timelines alive and operating from a survival of the fittest paradigm, an exploitation paradigm, a victimization paradigm, whether they are complicit with this and consenting to it or doing it. And this is a hard thing for people to hear. They can't possibly be equal for those who are just watching something happen and those who are actually perpetrating these heinous acts against humanity, children, animals, etc. It's not much different. It's not much different. In terms of the collective movement of humanity out of this level of consciousness, it has to be a coherent split, a mass split that involves the honoring of the sacredness of all sentient life. And if there isn't, you can call it different gradients of holding this prison planet timeline alive or holding the death culture timelines alive. But in a way, not seeing it is almost like defending it. In a way, not believing it exists or this couldn't possibly be true. Humanity or other humans couldn't possibly do this to other humans, children, people, animals, etc. The planet itself, raping the resources on the planet. That's not possible. That is staying in darkness. That is consenting to a level of darkness that perpetuates your own belief system, where you insulate yourself from a greater truth. It keeps us operating also when we want to stay in our own safety net like that, operating in a survival of the fittest paradigm. And will often, those who stay in their survival of the fittest paradigm will often defend their own victimhood, will often defend their own enslavement under a guise of righteous sovereignty to choose to believe what they, quote unquote, know. So there's that timeline. Then there's a timeline split of the spiritually awakened, quote unquote, who will stay in their outrage. They're awake and they're aware, but they are pointing the finger of blame and outrage. They are in a kind of manufactured consent with the mass of people who are screaming, "I'm awake! Now come with me and be outraged at what they've done." So you are channeling that awakening and the fear of opening up, because you wouldn't be going into the blame and the resentment if there wasn't a fear of opening up, if there wasn't a fear of awakening. Because those frequencies of blame and outrage, pointing the finger of blame, having resentment, those are in alignment with that fear paradigm. It's a fear of opening up. It's a fear of awakening. And it's under this guise of, I'm awake, I'm aware, I see all these things. But if you're staying in the outrage at what they've done, you're going down, you're going along with kind of the popular opinion of those who are awake, quote unquote, but still paralyzed in fear, in a sense, of what they are waking up to or what you are waking up to. And in a sense, giving up critical thinking about how to change it. Giving up your creativity and sovereignty in terms of what you have the power to do to make the change that you want to see. Because the confusion of what is happening so fast on the planet also creates this kind of cognitive dissonance and incoherence in thinking and feeling, where we end up feeling powerless to do anything about the state of things on the planet. And so you're actually, those in that timeline split are actually doing more to serve as public relations for the negative agendas and controller paradigms on the planet, because all you do is keep talking about it and staying in the outrage of it. That is keeping the fear of opening up alive. That is keeping the fear of awakening alive. It is enhancing the fear of all those who hold that popular opinion of being awake along with you. And there's going to be a lot of people who don't want to hear this. But this is an actual timeline that is being served well on this planet right now. You're actually doing more if you will find yourself in this timeline, or you know of someone, or you're seeing this. It's actually doing more to serve as public relations for the negative agendas and the controller paradigms on the planet. You can't see that what they're actually doing is keeping the victim perpetrator timelines alive on the planet, all under the guise of spiritual righteousness, which is subtly cloaked negative ego and self-deception. Again, being a perfect host for negative attachments, alien agenda, negative alien agendas, controller, victim, perpetrator, timeline agendas. And then there is a timeline split of those who are waking up to their power. Now this is quite different. There are those who are waking up to their power to make different choices through non-ego attachment and discernment. This is a shifting into the frequency avatar of the higher self. This is exiting the chrysalis. You're not just awake, but you're fully self-aware of a much greater bandwidth of consciousness. You're aligning with the higher harmonic resonance of coherent heart, mind, spiritual intelligence. This is the ultimate place of discernment. This is the sweet spot of discernment, moving past judgment, taking action based on the universal law of one, making God choices that are beyond egoic levels of cognitive dissonance, meaning those who are acting in accord with what is best for themselves, what is best for all sentient life, and in a way that has the least amount of resistance for all involved, realizing at last, free of the influence of any mind control that creates mental anxiety or inner conflict, that these things were never mutually exclusive. That's that instruction set that makes up the God choice, the highest and best good for you, the highest and best good of all, and with the least amount of resistance for all involved. This is the God choice. This is the instruction set for exiting the chrysalis, becoming the butterfly. You are free of the influence of any mind control that creates mental anxiety or inner conflict. This timeline is the one opening new consciousness corridors and the new timelines that hold evolved human consciousness. These new lines of communication, if you will, are opening, and they feel surreal. They feel plasmic. There's a lot of plasmic overlay because we have a lot of dimensional overlap. All of the dimensions and dimensional realities overlap with each other. And we are overlapping with about 4 or 5 different dimensional realities right now, and all of the hubs of consciousness within those dimensional realities. That's why things feel so surreal, feel very plasmic and flowy and watery and fluid, malleable. And because there's so much emotional involvement in all this, it can also feel very fluid and watery. But it's very malleable. It may feel out of sync with our daily reality, but that's because our daily reality was such an illusion-based reality for so long that was not aligned with the God choice. And this way of all of this feeling out of sync with our daily reality, that's only for right now. That's only for right now. Because these new timelines are just being formed into reality. This new timeline, this last timeline I'm talking about here, this is just being formed into reality. But as we continue to vacillate, however, between fear and love, fear and love, fear and love, and this is our daily reality, isn't it? Being constantly plucked from a situation that takes us out of love and into fear, and plucked from another situation that occurs in our outer reality that takes us out of love back into fear. This constant vacillation between fear and love, fear and love, fear and love, it means we can't concretize this new timeline into our new collective reality. Anytime you go into the fear, the blame, the outrage, etc., the spiritual righteousness, the righteous anger, you are consenting to being a host energy for all the lies and the deception and manipulation of the collective timeline to continue, the collective human victim agenda to continue. You are giving your power of authority to all of those timelines that support that. Here's the thing about timelines. Let's just call timelines for the sake of giving you a definition to work with here that makes sense. It's a vector of a certain level of consciousness where all complementary thoughts, feelings, attitudes, opinions, events, experiences, etc. complement that level of consciousness. That would be a timeline, okay? Timelines cannot exist without our energy to support them. No matter how much sophisticated artificial machinery of negative alien agenda, how many implants, how many holographic inserts are there to support these timelines, they cannot exist without our active participation. That is how powerful we are. Our collective energy is the battery that either perpetuates the negative agenda of human timelines or acts as the informed consent of self-ownership, self-determination that is the fuel for entering the new epoch of human collective harmony and freedom. You may want to listen to this again. You may want to listen to this a few times. But I hope this, however you listen to this, however you take this in, this meets you where you're at, and you can process this information from a place of sovereignty, where you can listen to this from a place of shifting into the awareness of your higher self, meaning that perfect balance of higher spiritual mind intelligence that integrates the mind and the heart, and that you can really take this in, and it can allow you to feel at peace with what is shifting and what is changing. That is my profound hope for you, and from myself and all of my galactic team to help that came together to help bring you this message. I want to wish you so many blessings and so much peace.